life. Coming back stronger. I will arise. I'm a survivor. Fight for my life. Coming back stronger. I will arise.
Welcome, people. What is up? This is Variety Bites. I am Sean Williams. Unfortunately, have some sad news to report, which I just read off of entertainmentweekly.com. Charlotte Rae, better known to the world from The Facts of Life as Mrs Garrett, has unfortunately passed away, reportedly as reports came from her son about his mom's passing. So unfortunately, our condolences to Charlotte Rae and her family, and she will be missed by many who of that generation who watch The Facts of Life, and you still watch the reruns to this day. So rest in peace to you, Charlotte Rae. All right, that being said, got a lot to talk about, so let's get right to it. So this week they released a new trailer for Venom, which I gotta say, if I wasn't on board with it already, I definitely am now. I like what they're trying to do with it. I like how it's not just as simple as the symbiote possesses Eddie Brock, and he all of a sudden is possessed and becomes Venom. That Eddie Brock is also fighting for control and, well, his sanity while working with the symbiote. And it's kind of a whole Jekyll-Hyde thing that I think is going to work out in the long run for it. And of course, LeBron James, and following an interview he did, now apparently he got a hate tweet from the dumbass in chief in Donald Trump, who even added, I like Mike, kind of as insinuating that he prefers Michael Jordan over LeBron James, which Michael Jordan was quick to actually dismiss Trump, saying that he actually likes what LeBron is doing. And reportedly, a lot of people aren't too happy with with Trump's tweet towards LeBron either. Jeannie Buss said how her and the Lakers support LeBron and are supporting LeBron and have his back, which, oh, gotta love Jeannie Buss. And the fact that LeBron hates Trump too, and even Jordan just reacted like, dude, don't go bringing me into this. Makes me like those two even more now. And you want to know one difference between LeBron James and Donald Trump? The school that LeBron James opened up was an actual school that actually provides an actual education. End of story on that one. I went to see Disney's Christopher Robin this week, which, I gotta say, honestly, who didn't, unless you're a younger generation, who didn't grow up with Winnie the Pooh, and who can actually say that they didn't care for Winnie the Pooh? I mean, there is absolutely nothing to dislike about that cartoon and Winnie the Pooh himself. And honestly, when I saw the trailer, I was getting choked up just watching the trailer alone and hearing that voice again. But if you're going to see the movie, best advice I can give you, bring a tissue box, because it's just going to melt your heart seeing that silly old bear again and seeing characters that we grew up loving. But honestly, it was a cute movie and great acting all around. I mean, I was already a fan of Ewan McGregor and Haley Atwell, now more so with this one. And given you didn't have the original voice for Eeyore, which I'm pretty sure was Peter Cullen, but Brad Garrett is just as good and is just as amusing as voicing Eeyore. And there is a mid-credit scene. I got worried because I thought I had missed something, but no, it turned out that the mid-credit scene that I watched actually was, in fact, that scene that was leaked out on the internet. And of course, this week, the only thing that I know of that's coming out in theaters is The Meg. Which, let me just say this. Thank God that I got that movie pass card, because that is the only way that I'm actually going to see that movie. Because I sure as heck will not pay a full price ticket to see what is basically a glorified B movie with a giant shark in it. Well, giant shark and Jason Statham. But I mean, I think to see it, you have to accept the fact that this movie is probably going to be one of those that's so stupid it's good. I mean, how do you think anybody watched the Tremors movies? And speaking of Jason Statham, well, only because there was one joke where he was mentioned on it. I watched the Bruce Willis roast on Comedy Central, which they really didn't hold back any punches on this one. And I did enjoy this one a lot. A lot of them actually had some pretty good ones. But I liked one remark when I said, speaking of Jason Statham, I liked the one joke that was said that Bruce was a big star until Jason Statham started balding. But I definitely liked the joke where in a way, your career is a lot like Armageddon. And by that, I mean, in the end, you got destroyed by The Rock. To which I think, ouch. But, yeah, I mean, Bruce Willis used to be the guy that was just about in every single movie that Hollywood could spit out. Now that's The Rock. I mean, look at how many movies he's been in over the last year. And not all of them were winners. I mean, Rampage, Baywatch. Oh boy, I'm sure there's a lot of people that wish they could wipe Baywatch off The Rock's resume. But you know what? When they got a Razzie this year at the Oscars, you know what? He took it with class. Give him credit where it's due. Truthfully, I didn't mind Baywatch, but I accepted the fact that the movie was most likely going to be stupid. And it was. Found out that they're actually working on a prequel to The Sandlot. Supposedly it's going to be something like The Legend of the Beast, which, I love The Sandlot. I never watched any of the direct-to-DVD sequels that they made, but in all honesty, I don't need a prequel to The Sandlot. I don't want to know I don't really need to know how The Sandlot came to be. We already kind of got a supposed origin story of the Beast and how that came about. We don't really need a prequel. I mean, it's kind of like how Solo. We didn't need an origin story for Han Solo, and the business kind of showed on that one. I mean, it didn't exactly draw the numbers that they were hoping for, and that's unfortunately what's put a Obi-Wan Kenobi movie with Ewan McGregor on the back burner. And also with, speaking of movies, Avengers Infinity War was released on digital last week. And of course we have this week on digital Deadpool 2, both of which I pre-ordered, and Avengers Infinity War I got, and Deadpool 2 I will be getting as of, technically after 9 p.m. tomorrow. Which I cannot wait to own that movie. I mean, Josh Brolin is one of those guys where you could give him any role, and I mean any role, and he will just run with it and make it work for him. I mean, I don't think I could have found anybody else that would have done as good as a job as Cable than he did. But he did it. And plus, come on. After all these years with the X-Men movies, we finally get Colossus versus Juggernaut. And finally, Juggernaut actually looking like Juggernaut. No disrespect to Vinnie Jones, which, with his, "I'm the Juggernaut, bitch." I mean, but still, it wasn't truly Juggernaut. But this was, even with the look, he just looked the part. But also, we had some other Easter eggs from X-Men, including Black Tom Cassidy. Oh, and some sports news I should mention is that Johnny Manziel had his debut finally in the Canadian Football League. Of course, he threw for 4 picks, so ouch. Not a good showing for the guy formerly known as Johnny Football. And of course, the Hall of Fame took place, or the inductions for the Hall of Fame in the NFL. And Randy Moss was there, among others. Of course, Terrell Owens wasn't there, and actually was apparently at his old school instead of at, well, basically, bottom line, he was not at the induction ceremony. And he's still cheesed off that he didn't get in on the first ballot, and has issue with the guys who were in charge of who gets in and who doesn't for the NFL Hall of Fame. But here's my issue with it, is that first off, there was no way he was going to get in first ballot. And there are plenty of guys who deserve it that didn't get in first ballot. Hell, it took Chris Carter 4 years before he got into the Hall of Fame. And if you want to say about it's because he didn't get a ring, well, no. Dan Marino never got a ring. He's in, but different positions, and also more professional. He's a more courteous and professional player, and hands down was an all-around better player and teammate than Terrell Owens ever was. Terrell Owens' reputation is being toxic to every locker room he's been in. He's basically the Dwight Howard of the NFL. And, he got himself to the point where no team wanted him because you caused so much drama. And so you didn't get in on first ballot. The fact is that you got in. And there are plenty of guys who didn't get in that would kill to have that spot. When you get a spot in the Hall of Fame, that's having your spot at the table amongst the all-time greats, amongst the elite of the NFL. And instead, it's basically like you just picked up your plate, went outside, and sat at the curb to eat, instead of your place at the table. Instead of just throwing this hissy fit, just accept it. You should have just been there and accepted that you got into the Hall of Fame, accept it with class and with honor, because that is the way to stick it to those guys that he's pissed off at. Instead of throwing this tantrum like he is, which, frankly, you're just giving those guys more fuel to say, you see, this is why we knew he wasn't going to get into on the first ballot. You should have just taken it, and in the back of your head think, you know what? You guys didn't want me in, but now I'm in, so stick it for all I care. But no. He had to be the standout because he can't stand not to be otherwise. It's just the way Terrell Owens works and how he's always worked. And that's always going to be his biggest issue. I mean, Randy Moss was a pain in the ass when he was in the league, but you know what? At least after the game, he matured. He actually seemed to grow up. Which a lot of people would say that's the one thing where Terrell Owens doesn't seem to have achieved, is actually acting like an adult and less like a spoiled child who doesn't get his way. Alright, so with that being said, people, we're going to take a quick break real quick, so we'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian H. Waters, host of The Wrestling Realm, and you are getting the raw, unfiltered opinion of Sean Williams. Now back to Variety Bites.
And we are back. Shout out to my good friend Brian H. Waters. Make sure you check out Break It Down with Brian H. right here on Podbean. And also check out The Wrestling Realm on YouTube and on Facebook. And of course, make sure you subscribe to iTunes as well. Now, with that being said, there's apparently a report that because the show The Big Bang Theory is approaching is going to be doing its 12th season this year. And it was reported originally that it was going to be the last season for that show, that many of the actors and also the crew were ready to move on, thinking that 12 was enough. However, reportedly CBS is actually hoping that they can actually get another year or two out of The Big Bang Theory. You know, I would hate to see the show go, but I don't think I would shed that many tears over it if it did end, because, well, what else is left? I mean, you could say Leonard and Penny having a kid, or Sheldon and Amy having a kid. Maybe, but at the same time, you already had Howard and Bernadette have 2 kids on there as is. I mean, the only thing you've yet to do is actually give Koothrappali a girlfriend that not only he lands a girlfriend, but it actually sticks. I mean, it looked like that comic book guy Stewart had landed a girlfriend with that girl that he hired at the comic book store. So, but also, you just had Mark Hamill on there. I mean, it doesn't get bigger than that. You're pretty much running out of big names in the nerd world to have. And speaking of which, I gotta say this. I have the biggest issue with internet nerd fans. Because I got a sample of those with how they reacted to the finale of the originals, which aired this week. Now, I was sad to see that show go, and it was a pretty emotional episode. It felt like the end of an era, because if you include the Vampire Diaries, you've seen these characters for about 8 years. And I'm talking about the Michelsons, the original vampires. Now, are there certain things I would have liked to have seen instead with how they ended it? Yeah, probably. But it was a fitting end. Because really, if the show was going to end, it was always going to come down to 2 specific people. The 2 brothers, Elijah and Klaus. And I felt, for those that have not seen it yet, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I thought how they ended it was fitting. And I looked at, with Hope Michelson, that this was a passing of the torch, and that while one chapter of the Michelson family ends, the legacy of the Michelson family has not ended. It left you to feel that there was still more to be told in this tale that is of the Michelson family, and that now the new chapter that begins will center on the daughter of Klaus Michelson, the daughter of the hybrid and probably the most feared vampire to have ever walked the earth. And I'm anxious to see what they do with her. I mean, the only living tribrid alive in part witch, part vampire, and part wolf. And I feel like we've yet to truly see what Hope Michelson can do. But I'm anxious to see how that unfolds when Legacy premieres, or when Legacies premieres in October. So it was reported that Legends of Tomorrow is going to be the only show that's not taking part in the crossover this year. But in a way, it still feels like a 4-show crossover, because this is going to be the backdoor opener for Batwoman. I mean, we're seeing the Arrowverse finally introduce Gotham City. And there's been speculation that while Batwoman will be introduced, that we will in fact see a Batman. Can it work? Hey, they cast Tyler Hoechlin of Teen Wolf fame to play Superman on Supergirl, and we all saw how that ended up. In fact, it turned out pretty good, and he did a remarkable job. Hell, I would go as far as to say I think he did probably a better job at playing 2 different people than Henry Cavill did in the Man of Steel Justice League movies. Mainly just because, and I've said this before, that I like the job Henry Cavill does as Superman. I just don't like the job he does as Clark Kent. They're supposed to be two different people. I mean, Tyler Hoechlin, when he did it, you actually saw him do a different kind of personality as Clark Kent. And there's also been speculation that we'll see Superman return this season on Supergirl, but we'll also see John Jones, the Martian Manhunter, more in action as the superhero that we know he is. Which I'm all for that, and please, if you're doing a crossover this year, which they are, please include the Martian Manhunter in it this time. How is it that you've had 2 crossovers with Supergirl in it, but you have not introduced the Martian Manhunter in either of them? And I'm excluding the duet episode, because that wasn't a multi-show crossover. It was just Flash and Supergirl crossing over. I mean, come on, you had Alex in the last one. You could at least have the Martian Manhunter in it. And I still would like it if, for one of the crossovers, you have Superman in it. I mean, come on. I mean, you already introduced him, so it's not like you're keeping him hidden. And as far as how Batwoman will turn out, I'm on a wait-and-see approach, because I'm waiting to see who they actually cast to play her. And so while it was announced that Iron Fist will premiere next month on September 7th, I believe, and that Alice Eve will be playing Typhoid Mary, that wasn't the only announcement that Netflix had. It was actually announced this week that Season 3 of Daredevil was not only official, but would actually air this year. I'm anxious to see this, but at the same time, the other thing that I want to see is, and I saw off of Cinema Blend, that it looks like we are getting, that for most of us that wanted it, we're finally getting our wish. We are finally getting Bullseye. Which, I'm anxious to see that, because apart from the Kingpin, Bullseye is without question one of the best enemy, or Bullseye is the deadliest enemy Daredevil has known. And the fact that we're going to finally see him and maybe wipe the bad taste that was left from Colin Farrell as Bullseye out of our mouth, that maybe we'll get something good. And it seems all but official that Disney's purchase of Fox is good to go. The shareholders seem to approve the idea of the acquisition, which, if this happens, that would mean the X-Men characters and the Fantastic Four, Disney would now have the rights to it. You know what's the reason why I want this to happen? Other than seeing possibly Hugh Jackman reprise his role as Wolverine, and maybe we'll finally get that Wolverine-Deadpool movie that we've been aching for. But it's also that maybe, just maybe, we will finally get a good Fantastic Four movie. And no, I don't mean... It means we will not get a sequel to that monstrosity that Fox released a couple years ago with Miles Teller as Mr. Fantastic and that god-awful Dr. Doom. And I'll say this for the last time, that if you want to do Dr. Doom right, just already have him in the mask. You can explain how he got that way later, but just already have him in power. Just pull a Darth Vader, where he's already in the suit and the mask. You don't need to figure all that out until later on how he got that way. And of course, we got, with baseball, we got, well, Dodgers struggled a little bit, but they won one today against the Astros, which I couldn't help but take some satisfaction out of that, considering that they were the ones that robbed us of a World Series win. But playoffs are around the corner. Dodgers got the win. Angels seem to be struggling, though. And, of course, we're in August, so that means preseason football. Which, given, I'm never exactly too excited about preseason, but football is football. And we just got to wait a couple more weeks, and then the regular season begins, and that's when the true action and the true fun begins for the NFL. And with that being said, going to wrap things up for tonight. Next week it'll be a little bit of delay getting the show on because Next weekend I'll be going to San Francisco for the Vampire Diaries and the Originals convention. I'll actually be getting my picture taken with Joseph Morgan, aka Klaus Michelson, Claire Holt, aka Rebecca, and actually going to get a group picture with the Michelson siblings minus Freya. So I'm excited for that one. I'll definitely have the pictures up on my Facebook page. And of course, make sure you check out the Variety Bites page, where you'll catch my stuff on entertainment and on sports, as well as the Shark Attack page, where I talk about wrestling. I want to thank you guys for listening. This has been Variety Bites. I am Sean Williams. You guys, I'll see you next week. Good night now.
I fight for my life.